women and how to create more appreciation in your life for yourself. The last couple years, women have started to actually step back in their career, or at least acknowledge that they want to step back in their career. And so I want to talk about why it is really important for women to continue to step up, to be that center of excellence in our corporations, and continue to recognize and appreciate the abilities that we bring as women to corporations. So what led me to this thought and this live stream is really something that I recently read, and it is the 2021 study that McKinsey does in relation to the Lean In organization about women in the workplace and where we are going. And for another year in a row, we are starting to actually move backwards. We are starting to pull away from leadership. And unfortunately, ladies, this will impact corporations in a big way if we continue down this cycle. So I want to take a moment and I want to recognize and I want to show you appreciation and show how you can appreciate yourself even more. But before I do, I want to pop on and just share with you some words, some insights that have come out of this leadership report that women have been saying. And I'm just going to literally read them from the report that have come up that women have shared about it. It says, the only other woman in leadership left as a result of burnout. She and I faced a lot of pushback when trying to support employees during the pandemic. It disproportionately fell on some of us to offer that support. Some of the men in the leadership wanted everyone to work more often, even at the height of the pandemic. And it was very contentious, and I did not feel backed up by the women on the executive. And this was done by someone in a senior position. As well, here's another thought, is that it's the only time I've ever seriously considered a less demanding job. I interviewed for a job with another company and I just felt so burnt out so often. I probably cried more than not. I felt caught in the middle of everyone's emotional responses. I had to be the voice of a lot of different people. Some of it was not my job and wasn't in my area. And it was the hardest year of my life. These are sentiments. These are true statements that women provided in their feedback to this study, this research study that was done over the last 21 years. And one out of three women has, over this last time period, thought about stepping back, thought about what it is. But the reality is, women, when in leadership roles, actually create better results in companies. When companies' staff are supported from a well-being standpoint, and ladies, you do this really, really well, is the company actually performs better. The people within it perform better. But it unfortunately takes a toll on us. So I want to give you some ideas. I want to give you some suggestions on how to create that balance so that you can utilize your leadership skills, so that you can appreciate what it is that makes you incredible as a leader, and how to create balance so that you can show up and be that amazing rock star that you are. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nancy Michelle. I am the founder of the Confident Feminine Woman, and I am here to help women amplify their leadership abilities in the workplace. Because as I said earlier, statistics show that when women actually are a significant portion of the corporation and the leadership team, the company actually performs better. And study after study is showing that as corporations create more diverse teams with more well-being in their organization, then the organization performs better. And what organizations want is actually to perform better. So we need to get better at emotional intelligence. We need to get better at supporting and recognizing women who are stepping up and doing this work so that they don't burn out. And so today, ladies, I'm actually going to provide you with a handful of suggestions and a handful of ideas on how to reduce burnout so that you have time to engage in more appreciative work. So the first area that I'm going to talk about is delegation. And I think we've all probably heard so much about the importance of delegation. And as women, sometimes our goal is to please people, is to show up and provide this pleasing presence. Sometimes our goal is to be perfect, and we get stuck in these perfectionism methods. So when we are stressed, when we are in this state, we will start to overcompensate for people, or we will start to spend so much time being perfect and making sure and getting into control. I'm going to tell you, when COVID started, one of the things that was hugely difficult for me was I went from managing a big team, having a really great project, and our team was performing at great success, to COVID hitting, needing to actually close down the project, needing to eliminate my staff, which for me was so difficult because I get rewarded by the quality of the work that I produce and my team produces. And I became someone who started to get into this very controlled behavior. I started to try and own and hold on to things because my stress level was showing up. But what I really needed to do was figure out ways to actually delegate work, to actually release it better out to my team so that I could then work on certain projects or find new projects to help promote the business. And unfortunately, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. And I now, having learned things like the process communication model, I've started to realize that this was a downfall for myself. But here are some things that I want you to take a look at. If you are currently burnt out and you are currently overloaded and you are in a leadership position, and this doesn't matter if you're an emerging leader or you're somebody at a C level, I want you to take some time and I want you to really take a look at the work that you're doing and really think about what is it that I'm doing and really start to be ruthless. Because oftentimes we will start to overcompensate, do things for others more than we need from a work perspective. And it's kind of like, what things on my list can I just completely cut off the list? What are things that I'm doing because it's out of habit, because it's historical, oh, we've always done it that way? I can take off the list. As well, is it possible for you to hire a virtual assistant? I know in many companies, the companies that I have worked for, we got rid of the secretary position. We got rid of that administrator position. But one of the great things about this new world is that there are a ton of virtual assistants out there who are extremely reasonably priced, and you don't need to hire them for 40 hours a week. So is there a way that you can actually take some? Can you have a discussion with people on your leadership team about, hey, could I hire a virtual assistant to do this amount of work? Here, make a statement about what it will actually do for the profit of the company. Relate it to what the leadership team will actually see as the things that you can provide based on your hourly rate versus maybe the hourly rate of a VA. And to be honest with you, I have seen VAs be as cheap as like $5 to $10, which is crazy. And I don't support that philosophy. But what I'm saying is you could get a VA for minimum wage in your area who can support that work. Next, And this comes from a really cool book. If you have not read it, I highly recommend. It is called We Should All Be Millionaires. It is written by a woman called Rachel Rogers. And in it, she talks about the idea of hiring a personal assistant. So, for all of you women out there, have you ever thought that the idea of having a personal assistant is a bit crazy and a bit out there? But I sat and I actually did some calculations for myself. And I thought, what if I hired a personal assistant for 3 to 5 hours a week? I'm going to tell you, at $20 an hour, if you paid really well, or even if you paid at minimum wage, which I think in Canada is like $15 an hour, if I hired a personal assistant for $15 an hour for 3 hours a week, that would actually be equivalent of me going out to dinner with my husband for one meal. Actually, that would be cheaper than going out to dinner for one meal. But what could they do? They could go get the dry cleaning. They could go pick up my groceries for me. They could go take the my shoes to the cobbler. They could go maybe gather papers or run errands. There are so many things that they could do that if you could package things up into 3 hours a week that you can give somebody and spend $45 to $60 a week on it, think about how that would benefit your life over a year. So 3 hours a week, right? Times 52 weeks in a year is what, 156 hours approximately? You could actually get that back. And think about what 156 hours could do for you. That could give you more energy to spend with your kids. Or maybe you're somebody who supports your aging parents. And maybe you're doing double duty, but it gives you that time. Maybe it gives you time to actually go appreciate yourself and go to the spa or go get your hair done so that you can feel good. Maybe it's just time that you can go out and have a nice drink with your girlfriends or a romantic evening with your husband or partner because you have energy, because you haven't gone to work and then come home and run around trying to chase after everything. When we start to appreciate ourselves and we start to appreciate our time by delegating things out to others that we don't need to do, it becomes a way to start to appreciate ourselves. It becomes a way to start to recognize the value that we are giving ourselves and giving the community. And here's the cool thing. When you hire a VA or when you hire a personal assistant, not only are you giving yourself something, but you're hiring somebody else to help support them, to help benefit. So if you are somebody who truly believes in giving to the community, in sharing that information, then by doing that, it's a way to give to others. So I want you just to take a moment and imagine what your day could be like if you had a few hours back because you learned to delegate things better at work or because you learned to delegate things better at home. Think about that. I want you to imagine it. I want you to reflect and feel that joy that you would get out of imagining what you could do and how you could appreciate yourself with that time. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is boundaries. Oh my gosh, as women, often I see us not good at creating boundaries. And so, what do I mean by boundaries? One of the biggest problems in the workplace is that we are always on. And as leaders, we feel that we always need to respond. So, what I want you to do is I want you to take some time and talk to your team about boundaries and talk to your team about the opportunity to disconnect both yourself, both your leadership in your organization, and your people and the people that you work with. When you start to appreciate others, when you start to appreciate the work, it will actually start to reflect back on you. And so, what do I mean about creating boundaries? So, one thing is set some time to really disconnect, meaning turn off the phone from work at the end of the day and say, you know what? It is time for me to leave. I am going to leave so that I can enjoy and have the energy for my time. As a leader, also start to appreciate that in other people. People don't need to be working 24/7, and we all don't need to create that culture. The reality is the advantage of taking a vacation, the advantage of having downtime, the advantage of giving good rest to yourself and appreciating that in yourself and all of the other people that you work with means that when you show up the next day, you actually have more energy. You are more excited. You are more able to be on and do the things. So I want you to start setting time to disconnect, and it will feel uncomfortable at the start. It will feel like, ooh, somebody's going to want me. The reality is, unless you're somebody who's been in a position like me where I was responsible for the emergency response of a refinery, the only time my phone really needed to go is when the place was truly on fire. And there were times in my life where it was truly on fire or where the production of the place shut down. But the rest of the time, we are doing things because we haven't managed our day really well. We haven't delegated really well. So now we're working at night. Now we're actually not shutting off. As well, if you're somebody like me, I would used to go to work. I'd take my computer home and then be like, okay, I'm just going to get on the computer for a few hours. Especially during COVID, I was like, what else am I going to do? Right? I'm locked in my house, so I'll do it. But the reality is, taking that time to recuperate, taking that is really important. The same is true within your office. Create office time for yourself where, if you're lucky enough, you can close the door. If you are not, book your calendar so that it shows that that is a time slot specifically for you to get your work done, so that you can energize in the way that you want to do. I used to create this process called a priority one meeting where I would talk to my staff first thing in the morning and I would give them one priority a day that they needed to do. And actually, most of the time, they would tell me what their one priority was. But it was really helpful if I could create a block where my door was closed and I actually could sit and focus on my stuff the way I needed to do work. So I want you to think about that. What is it that you need to do? And when you do that, when you create that time, I literally want you to take everything, like take your email, shut it off. Take Teams Messenger. Oh my gosh, I think we thought that was going to be a great thing. But the reality is that just causes distractions and just holds us back from being able to achieve the things we need to do. As a leader, you still have work that you need to do. And if you're always on, always responding, always connecting with people, it will start to really drain you. So give yourself permission. Give yourself that appreciation of your time, your value, by setting and blocking some time in your calendar every day just for you to do work, and literally start to tell the boss, start to tell your coworkers, start to tell your employees that this is my time, that is your time, and start to appreciate it. Because when you start to take permission to do it, guess what? Other people will start to take permission as well. And they will stop bothering you. They will start to make decisions that they've always been able to do. So start to appreciate your time more, appreciate that. And great leaders will learn to do that. They will learn to delegate, they will learn to do set boundaries for themselves. Next is self-talk. So when we get into a state of distress, and I will tell you, COVID has led to a lot of distress, we need to actually learn the power of self-talk, and we need to start paying attention to what is going on in our mind. So for me, one of the self-talks that I sometimes start to get into is this: oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not doing it well enough. It is not perfect. And we need to actually start to pay attention to it. So I really want you to start to pay attention to the language that is starting to happen in your mind, that is starting to tell you that you need to do more, that you need to over control, that it's faster if I do it myself. or that it is the language of, I just need to support them. I really, really need to be there. And grant yourself permission to start to go, okay, what is the language that I need? The reality is, and lots of psychologists and lots of sociologists will tell you, that we actually can only work on the language ourselves. And as much as we can get other people to give us feedback, to give us that positive reinforcement, if we aren't doing it ourselves, if we aren't managing that mindset, that language in our brain, then we need to actually take time to think about it. So I want you to spend some time thinking about, what is the words that I need to say to myself? What are some of the reminders that I need to say? And it could be, it is okay to take a break. It is okay to go, I am going to go out for a coffee and relax and give myself some comfort. It is okay to close the door and allow myself that time of quiet and solitude where I can just focus on the work. We need to tell ourselves that it is okay. We need to tell ourselves appreciation words. We need to remind ourselves that we are providing great value and great success out to the world. And the reality is, we need to get that from ourselves. The second people that we need to get that from is your inner circle. So often we'll get feedback from people who will give us negative feedback, but the reality is they are not the people who are super important to us. And so what I want you to do is try and really think about, who is in your inner circle. Who are the people that you need to support you emotionally? And sit down and have a conversation with them. Have a conversation about what it is that you need to hear from them. And maybe that person is a manager or a specific leader within the organization. It may not be your direct boss. It may be somebody else that has mentored you, that is giving you good feedback, that you trust, that you see value in. Because if we're taking feedback, positive feedback from people that we don't see value in, or negative feedback that we don't see value in, it will not resonate really well with us. But if you do it with people who are strong, who believe in what you say, who you believe in, who you value, create time to connect with those people. Show them appreciation and allow them to reflect that back to you. In positive communication and comfort, we need to be able to uplift each other. So surrounding yourself with people who appreciate your abilities, who appreciate the things that you are giving on a daily basis. Get to remember who those really close friends are, those really important people in your life, and stop listening to all of the other people. Start to really pay attention to who you are taking feedback from, and start to pay attention to the language and the self-talk in your brain. So the last thing that I want on appreciating yourself as a leader is, we've talked about delegation, we've talked about boundaries, we've talked about self-talk, is actually giving leadership advice to yourself. So I want you to think about, what is the advice you would like to receive from someone else, and then go do that. What is the piece of information that is going to support you in being more incredible, in appreciating yourself? And maybe that advice is, Nancy, I think you should take the day off. I think you should take a Saturday and really just recharge. You have given, you have spent time, you have invested in our corporation, in the people that we're with. And now it is time for you to take time and do something nice for yourself. I want you to think, what is that leadership advice that as a leader you would love to receive for yourself in appreciation? Because the more we can start to pay attention to the advice we want to give to others, and start giving it to ourselves. It's a little play on the self-talk, but I really then want you to start to do it. Start to recognize that you are appreciated. Start to go, this is the feedback that I want. Because here's the deal. When you show up as someone who's receiving that feedback, you'll actually start to notice that people will start to give it to you. And it will be a little bit surprising. It will start to actually happen in your day, in your life. People will be like, wow, you look incredible. People want that. They will start to really respond and respect that. So your leadership abilities, ladies, is incredible. And when you practice wellness and start to appreciate yourself and appreciate your leadership abilities, you will appreciate others more. And when others are appreciated, guess what? What appreciates. So this concept of what appreciates in value actually grows in value. And so when you start to appreciate yourself by recognizing it's time to delegate work, it's time to set boundaries, it's time to self-talk, and it's time to give ourselves the leadership advice that we would want, then you start to appreciate yourself and you will increase in value. You will increase the value of the people around you because you started to pay attention to that inner circle and not those people who are like the naysayers and struggling. You deserve appreciation because, as I said at the start, when women and when diverse cultures lead organizations, organizations become better, they become stronger, and they outperform their previous years, their previous times. So take time to appreciate yourself. Take time to recognize that you as a leader are incredible because I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to be here. I appreciate what you are doing in organizations. And we need to help you overcome burnout and exhaustion so that you can step in and be more appreciated. Ladies, my name is Nancy Michelle. If you found this really useful, or if you're a guy who's listened to this and think your wife or somebody in your organization needs to hear this message, then take this. I encourage you to share it. I come live every week, so click the like button if you're on YouTube and subscribe to this channel so that you'll get it. If you are on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or LinkedIn, oh my gosh, it's so cool to be going everywhere. Pay attention. I am trying to come live every week on Wednesdays, either at 12 or 12:30, depending on what else is going on in the day, to bring you some insights, to bring you some ways to empower women in the organization, because you are the greatest value to bringing organizations into the future and being more and more successful. And when we can promote women up the organizational chain, we will create better cultures within the corporations that we work for. Thank you. I appreciate your time. Feel free to reach out as well. I'm going to post a link. I actually have a Take Back Your Time freebie. It's a little training. It will help you sort out what to delegate and what you're going to keep on your plate and what you're going to eliminate from your life. So if you really appreciate yourself, if you value yourself, click the link, take the program, Take Back My Life, and really start to own and appreciate your abilities. Cheers.